I would necessarily have. It is a moment where you need to have that discussion. The monarchy provides, with the Constitution, a degree.
The walls of Windsor Castle had witnessed centuries of secrets, betrayals, triumphs, and heartbreak. Monarchs had stood beneath its towering ceilings to announce wars, marriages, abdications, and deaths. But on this cold evening, the atmosphere inside the ancient royal residence felt heavier than anyone could remember. Staff members moved quietly through the corridors, their faces tense, their voices reduced to whispers. Something serious was happening behind closed doors. For weeks, rumors had swirled throughout Britain about the condition of King Charles. Public appearances had become increasingly rare. Official statements from Buckingham Palace remained carefully worded and restrained, but the absence of the king had not gone unnoticed. Newspapers speculated. Television commentators debated. Royal experts analyzed every photograph, every cancelled appearance, every change in schedule. But inside the royal family, the reality was far more complicated than the public could imagine. Princess Anne had always been known as the monarchy's most dependable figure. While other members of the royal family often attracted headlines for scandals, interviews, or controversy, Anne remained steady and disciplined. She rarely complained, rarely explained, and never sought attention. Throughout her life, she had built a reputation for honesty and loyalty to the crown. Many within palace circles considered her the strongest Windsor of them all. That was precisely why King Charles trusted her with the responsibility no one else could carry. The summons had gone out quietly. Prince William arrived first, accompanied by a small security team. He looked exhausted. The pressures of royal duty had visibly aged him over the past few years. Between public responsibilities, family concerns, and increasing expectations surrounding the future of the monarchy, the burden on his shoulders had become impossible to ignore. Shortly afterward came Queen Camilla, her expression unusually serious as she entered the private drawing room reserved for senior family discussions. Then came the arrival no one could stop talking about. Prince Harry had returned to Britain alone. The absence of Meghan Markle immediately fueled speculation among royal staff and reporters waiting outside the castle gates. Questions spread quickly through palace corridors. Was this a temporary visit? A peace offering? Or something much more serious? Harry's relationship with the royal family had been fractured for years. Since stepping away from royal duties and relocating to California, tensions between him and the institution had only deepened. Interviews, documentaries, memoirs, and public accusations had widened the divide between the brothers. The once inseparable sons of Princess Diana now lived on opposite sides of the world emotionally as much as physically. And yet Harry had come. That alone told everyone this meeting mattered. Inside the room, silence dominated the atmosphere. No one seemed certain how to begin. William stood near the fireplace with folded arms, avoiding eye contact with his younger brother. Harry remained near the doorway for several moments before finally taking a seat at the far side of the room. Then Princess Anne entered. The room immediately changed. She carried no notes. No prepared statement. No advisors followed behind her. Her posture was rigid, her expression unreadable. But everyone understood instantly that she had come carrying the king's words. Not his opinions. Not palace strategy. His personal wishes. And looked around the room slowly before speaking. "The king asked me to speak on his behalf," she said calmly. Those simple words stunned everyone present. King Charles had spent his entire life preparing for moments of constitutional importance. Traditionally, monarchs addressed family matters personally, especially during moments of crisis. The fact that he had delegated this responsibility to Anne immediately signaled the seriousness of the situation. William's face tightened. Harry lowered his eyes toward the floor. And continued carefully. She explained that the king's health struggles had forced him to confront realities he had long tried to postpone. For decades, Charles had waited to become king. He had prepared longer than any heir in British history. Yet now, after finally ascending the throne, time suddenly felt uncertain. According to Anne, Charles had spent countless sleepless nights reflecting on the monarchy, his family, and the future of the institution he had inherited. But one issue haunted him more than any other. William and Harry. The room became impossibly still. And revealed that the king's greatest personal regret was not political controversy, public criticism, or declining support for the monarchy among younger generations. It was the collapse of the bond between his sons. Charles reportedly believed the royal family had survived many crises throughout history because, despite disagreements, the institution ultimately depended on unity within the family itself. Public conflict weakened the crown. Division damaged public trust. and the continuing feud between William and Harry threatened to cast a shadow over the monarchy for decades. But Anne's next revelation shocked everyone even more. The king had a final wish. He wanted William and Harry to find a way, any way, to speak honestly again before it was too late. Not for cameras. Not for public relations. Not for headlines. For themselves. William reportedly looked stunned. Harry said nothing at all, and explained that Charles understood reconciliation might never fully happen. Too much had been said publicly. Too many accusations had been exchanged. Too much trust had been broken. But the king hoped there could at least be communication. Some small opening. Some chance for the brothers to remember who they once were before anger, resentment, and distance consumed everything. The request hit William especially hard. For years he had carried enormous frustration toward Harry. Palace insiders had long suggested William viewed his brother's public interviews and memoir as betrayals not only of the institution but of deeply private family relationships. He reportedly believed Harry crossed lines that could never truly be repaired. Yet hearing his father's wish spoken aloud forced him into an impossible emotional position. Duty had always defined William's life. And now duty collided directly with personal pain. Harry appeared equally shaken. Despite years of criticism directed toward the monarchy, sources close to the prince had often suggested his relationship with King Charles remained emotionally complicated rather than completely broken. Harry had repeatedly spoken about wanting accountability and honesty within the family, but beneath the anger many still sensed lingering sadness over what had been lost. Hearing that his father's greatest concern centered not on titles or public image, but on family healing, seemed to visibly affect him. For several long moments no one spoke. Then the conversation began. At first it remained cautious and restrained. Camilla expressed concern about the emotional strain these conflicts had placed on Charles during his health struggles. Prince Edward reportedly emphasized the need for stability during a period of uncertainty surrounding the monarchy. But eventually emotions surfaced. William questioned whether trust could ever truly return after years of public accusations. Harry countered that silence and avoidance had only deepened the wounds between them. Old frustrations resurfaced quickly. The atmosphere became tense again. Princess Anne listened quietly before finally intervening. She reminded both brothers that history rarely remembers royal families kindly when personal conflict overwhelms public responsibility. She pointed to past crises that nearly destroyed the monarchy altogether. The abdication crisis of 1936 remained one of the most painful examples. When King Edward VIII gave up the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson, Britain was thrown into constitutional uncertainty. George VI, unprepared for kingship, inherited enormous pressure overnight. That trauma shaped the royal family for generations. Then came Queen Elizabeth II, whose 70-year reign provided unmatched stability. Her discipline, restraint, and sense of duty became the foundation upon which modern monarchy survived. But Anne warned that the world had changed dramatically. The monarchy no longer existed in an era where privacy could be controlled. Every disagreement now became global news within minutes. Every silence created speculation. Every mistake spread endlessly online. Charles understood this reality better than most people realized. According to Anne, the king had spent much of his reign quietly preparing major reforms intended to modernize the monarchy for survival in the 21st century. He envisioned a smaller royal family with fewer publicly funded roles. He wanted greater financial transparency. He supported opening more royal properties to public access. He believed the monarchy needed to become less ceremonial and more connected to modern society. Most importantly, he believed William would need freedom to reshape the institution even further after eventually becoming king. But Charles feared personal family conflict could overshadow all those efforts. The public, Anne explained, no longer separated private royal drama from constitutional responsibility. The monarchy's credibility depended heavily on perceptions of stability and unity. William listened carefully. So did Harry. And then revealed another deeply personal detail. Late at night, the king reportedly spent hours looking through old family photographs. Images of William and Harry as boys seemed especially meaningful to him. Ski trips, military ceremonies, birthday gatherings. Moments before fame, pressure, and division changed everything. Charles reportedly told Anne that watching his sons drift so far apart had become one of the greatest sorrows of his life. Not because he expected perfection, but because he remembered how close they once were. The room fell silent again. For the first time that evening, William looked directly at Harry. No anger. No hostility. Just sadness. The brothers had endured extraordinary experiences together. They walked behind their mother's coffin before millions of watching strangers. They grew up inside one of the world's most scrutinized institutions. Few people could truly understand the pressures they shared. Yet somewhere along the way that bond shattered. Harry eventually spoke quietly. He admitted that much of his anger came from feeling unheard for years. He described feeling trapped inside a system he believed protected the institution more than the individuals within it. He acknowledged mistakes had been made on all sides, including his own. William responded carefully. He confessed feeling blindsided by public revelations that exposed deeply personal family matters to the entire world. He said trust became difficult after private conversations repeatedly appeared in interviews, documentaries, and books. Neither brother apologized directly. But for the first time in years they seemed to genuinely listen. Princess Anne understood the significance immediately. The king's wish had never been about forcing perfect reconciliation. It was about reopening communication before bitterness became permanent. Outside Windsor Castle, reporters waited desperately for information. Helicopters circled overhead. Television networks speculated endlessly about what might be unfolding behind palace walls. But inside the castle, the conversation had shifted from public image to something far more human. Family. As the evening continued, discussion turned toward the future of the monarchy itself. William increasingly recognized that his eventual reign would begin under circumstances unlike any previous monarch. Public attitudes toward royalty were changing rapidly.